There's some clear similarities. There's also some really important differences that I touch on too, because we are not in something like a civil war, and we don't need to go there.
No.
There are a lot of ways out of this. I don't want to be too gloom and doom here. But to your question, there are real similarities to the way politics has worked in a country like Lebanon and some of the dynamics you see in the U.S. now. Lebanon fought a 15-year civil war. It ended in 1990. That civil war divided people across both political and religious lines. You saw some fighting within religious groups, and you saw coalitions that were religiously aligned fighting each other. And ever after, even though the war ended in 1990, to this day, Lebanese politics are highly divided. And there is this sense of tribal identity that maps onto largely religious and political lives, so that if you're in this camp that's aligned with, say, these Shiite political parties, you consume different media than the people who are Sunni Muslims, right? Does
Mm-hmm.
that sound familiar?
Oh,
you
yeah.
you know you have just a totally different worldview, and people in those political tribes, you reflexively, you have to stick with your team. The idea of finding common ground, or countenancing the other guy, is just not there. Some of those dynamics, there are definitely echoes of that for partisans in the U.S. Now, mind you, there's like half the country that's kind of in the middle, honestly doesn't follow politics, and is just not all that jazzed up about this stuff, for better and worse.
Right.
But folks who are on more of the wings, they're either, ardent Democrats or ardent Republicans. A lot of those dynamics are similar. Consume different media, as a result, increasingly live in just totally different informational environments. And then the next thing that happens is you start to look at the other political side as, either space aliens or someone coming to get you and your side.
Yeah, they're not just wrong about what they believe; they are evil, and we start to ascribe all these terrible motives uh, to people. And I think it's important, Nathan, what you bring up there about the media that we consume and the personalities that we follow, how how much that can guide our perception of things. What our media diet is really drives a lot of this polarization. I've said it quite often lately. Is that media consumption, what we consume, drives our perception of things, and our perception becomes our reality. So if the people that you are listening to, if the media that you're consuming is constantly telling you how bad the other side is or how evil they are, you begin to believe that becomes your reality.
Yeah, sure. Sure. And just to build on that for a sec, I mean, do the thought experiment. I'm old enough to remember the 80s. I remember a time before cable.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if our media environment worked the way it did in 1983. You got 3 networks and you got your local paper. It would just be very different. Maybe we'd have a Republican in the White House, maybe a Democrat. I don't know. But you sure as heck wouldn't have this tribal vitriol that we've seen in the last few years.
No, we definitely would not. We definitely would not.